Hi there. Let's take a quick look at a distinction that's made when we're looking at business decision making between what's known as a scientific approach compared with intuition. There are lots of business decisions made every day around simple things like the price to charge or how much inventory to hold, but also strategic decisions as well as functional decisions. And the key thing about decision making is that there's really two main approaches. One can be based around the hunch, the intuition, the gut feel, the experience of the people making the decision based on their experiences of making similar decisions. And a key advantage of intuition, of course, is speed. You can make that decision particularly quickly. The alternative is to take a little bit more time and try to come to a decision based on analysis, based on evidence and data. And that's what we really mean by the scientific approach to decision making. So it's involving decisions based on data, evidence based on data, therefore adopting a more systematic approach rather than relying on that gut feel or intuition. And there are lots of examples of this in our business studies. You've come across decision trees. And of course, perhaps the most important example of scientific decision making is the techniques we use for investment appraisal, such as ARR, net present value, and payback period. But also, scientific decision making is embedded in many businesses these days through algorithms, through automation. For example, the use of big data to determine the dynamic price of a good or service based around a series of factors. So, what are the main benefits? What are the drawbacks of taking a more scientific approach to decision making? Well, firstly, in terms of the benefits, of course, it's because we're using data. A scientific approach is evidence-based. If the data is there and it's reliable, it's of good quality, why not use it to make better decisions? And the consequence of that is that if you rely on data-driven, systematic approach to decision making, that should remove some, but not all, of the subjective judgment from your decisions. A good example of this is investment appraisal. We're using investment appraisal techniques such as net present value, but of course there is still some subjective judgment in terms of the assumptions we make about the cash flows or the project returns, and of course there's a subjective judgment about the discount factors that we use. So scientific decision making can't always remove the subjective judgment, but it goes a long way to doing so. You might therefore argue that that is therefore a potential drawback of the scientific approach, that it still relies on humans to make assumptions, to exercise their judgment. And of course, just because we're using processes like decision trees and investment appraisal and dynamic pricing, that doesn't mean that that's going to be the right decision. There's no guarantee of getting the correct decision. Like there's no guarantee of getting it right with intuition or hunch. And therefore, potentially the biggest drawback of scientific decision making is it may ignore that crucial aspect of business experience, the learning that's taken place that enables managers to make better decisions as they become more experienced. But there we go. That's just a very brief overview of this distinction between scientific decision making and intuition.